Hey everyone, it's Eric with Just Add Power, and in this video we're using RTI's Integration Designer 11 to do endpoint control in a Just Add Power AMP standardized system. Endpoint control means that we're using the Just Add Power devices to do IR control, serial control, or CEC control of your sources and displays. So the way that the communication gets to your TV or to your source is it goes out of your processor over the network, goes directly to a receiver that's behind a TV, and then the receiver sends your IR or your serial or your CEC commands. If you're doing a source, then again it comes out IP, goes to your Just Add Power transmitter, connected to your source via IR, serial, or CEC. We're going to look at all three in this video. We'll start with an overview of the system that we're working with just to kind of get your bearings. So we've already got our Just Add Power switching driver installed. We've got it configured for 4 sources and 4 displays. And you'll notice I've already loaded my sources inside and I've added my rooms for my displays. Already in the system, we've got matrix switching going. That part's already set up. So we've already run AMP. We've already got all the devices at their locations. Now we just need to add endpoint control on top of that. And the first thing we need to do that is we need an additional driver. Now, when you downloaded that driver, you got it along with the switching drivers. So if you weren't the one that did the download the first time, we're going for our AMP standardized RTI driver download. Click our little link there. It downloads us a driver. And we're going to add the endpoint control driver to the project. So there's a second driver that you need to do endpoint control. So we're going to hit add. And in our library, we're in our drivers library. And this is a global driver. We're going to go to user. And we're going to find the SOIP console CEC driver. Now I've got 2 of them, but I'm going to do the newer version. And I'm going to hit next to add that to the system. And this is our Just Add Power endpoint control driver, just so we know what it is. Add that into the system. And now this one driver is actually going to control every transmitter and every receiver in the system. The one driver, it does endpoint control, but it also does feature control like video wall and tiling. So we just need this one driver to do all of that stuff. We're going to configure it just like we did the switching driver. First, we got to tell it that it's an AMP VLAN system. That's our standardized AMP. We need to give it the IP address of a single device in the system. It uses that one device to get information about all the other devices. So we're going to grab our AMP report file, which we've already got up. We got this when we configured the system. So I just need to put in one of these IP addresses. I can use a transmitter or a receiver. I always just like to do the first receiver. So we've got the first receiver right there. All right, we're good with that for now. And we need to tell it how many sockets. This is the number of simultaneous devices that the driver can talk to. We've got 8 devices in the system, so I'm going to set it to 8. Bigger socket connections means the driver takes more memory. It needs more resources, but you can talk to more devices at a time. So I like to set it just about where my system size is. And then for big systems, you go all the way up to 32. So we got that set to 8. We'll come back to the endpoint control, but we do need to name our devices and tell them how many transmitters and receivers are in the system. So we got 4 transmitters, 4 receivers, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to name these according to what we've got in our project file. Boop, and through the magic of editing, they're named. So now we need to go back up to this endpoint control settings part. So this is how we're going to control our devices. So we need to decide, are we doing serial control or IR control through this setting? If you're doing CEC, it doesn't matter what you set it to because CEC is always enabled. But the driver needs to know we're doing serial control or IR control. So we've got serial. That's your option for 3G and max color systems. If you're doing an IR, the IRV1 and the IRV2, these are 3G settings. And then if you have max color and you're doing IR, you choose the max color IR settings. Because in 3G, IR is an additional piece of hardware and you need to know, do you have the V1 or V2? You have the V2. If max color, it's just native, so you just select that. So we're going to do all 3 of them. So we're going to set our first driver to serial. And we're going to set our baud rate. Now we're going to match this to the baud rate that the devices we're controlling have. You just look at the manual for the device. It'll tell you this baud rate, 8, none, 1, stop bits, parity bits. If this stuff is different, you're just getting this out of the manual for the TV or projector, whatever you're controlling. Most devices are going to be 9600, 8, none, and 1. That's what I've got here. So that's what we're going to leave this at. And the endpoint driver is configured. The room we're going to use for serial control is going to be the master bedroom. And you'll see we've already loaded a master bedroom TV into here. It's a serial driver, but we don't actually need this driver in the room. I'm just having this loaded so that when we go to the library later, we know which driver we're looking for. But for the master bedroom, we need to go to our activities for the room, and we've got our DirecTV, we've got our source selection. This was all done in the matrix switching portion. So what we need to do is we need to go down here to our tag editor, and we need to look at, well, what kind of TV control am I going to be doing? We're going to do power on, power off. We want to do some volume control for the TV, and we also need to make sure that we're set on the input that just add power is attached to. So we're going to do power on and input selection first. That has to be done down in the tag editor in the video on section. So if you were doing this normally, what you would do is you would go over to your command steps, you would pick the TV, you'd say I want to turn it on, you'd pick the TV again, you'd say I want to select the HDMI 1 input. Well, you change the order of that because you got to be on to be HDMI. And then you put a little time delay between that for however long it takes the TV to go on. But this is not how we do it through Just Add Power. This is how it's done if your television is connected to a serial port of the RTI processor. We don't have that set up. We have the serial port of the TV is actually connected to a Just Add Power receiver. It's not connected to the RTI processor. We're getting the commands to the receiver over the IP connection, and then the receiver is connected to the television via serial. So we have to do this slightly differently. Let's get rid of this. The command we need, it's still a command, but it's a command from our endpoint control driver. And then looking through the long list of commands here, we've got at the top, we've got endpoint control. So we've got send serial command. And then it needs to know, who am I sending the serial command to? Well, this is our master bedroom. If we look at our spreadsheet real quick, master bedroom is output 1, receiver 1. So we need to tell it this command is going to receiver 1. And then we need to tell it, well, this is the power on command. But what is the power on command for this TV? And this is where things get a little interesting. In Integration Designer 9, there was a little library over here on the side, and you could just pull the command out of the library. We drag it out, and we kind of copy it over. But that doesn't exist in Integration Designer 11. So we still need to get that power on code, but we've got to go somewhere else to do it. So we're going to go up to the library at the top, and we're going to go to the RS-232 Library Manager. And I've already done a little bit of this, so what we're going to do is let's close this guy down, and we're going to open. We can't open the master because the master is read-only. This is where the codes are going to come from, but it's not going to let us do that. So we're going to go open, and we're going to go user. And now mine's already loaded, but what you'll need to do when you see this, there might only be a couple of commands that you've downloaded legitimately. So you're going to need to go to device, and you're going to need to go to import, and you're going to need to select the master. We're going to import the master, and we could import them all or import some. We're going to import all of them. And we're going to replace all, just because I already had it loaded once. We're going to wait for it to do its thing. And now our import is successful. So what we need to do is we've got a Sony TV. So we're going to scroll down to Sony. And we've got a television, and they've got a set of serial codes in here. So what we need is the power on serial code. Now there's two ways to read this code. It's as a hex string. There's one with the spaces, and then there's one, if you hit the hex button, there's one with the \x. Just Add Power needs the \x version. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab this code, we're going to copy, we're going to go back over to our setting, we're going to get rid of the fake power on, and we're going to paste the real power on code in there. And then because we didn't have to do an HDMI selection, give it a little bit of a delay, however long it takes for the TV to turn on. And then we're going to copy this command, and we want to select the HDMI input that Just Add Power is connected to. So we want to tell it it's HDMI 1, so we go back to our library, we go input HDMI 1, select that command, hit hex, copy this, and paste. And so now it's set so that when they turn the room on the first time, the master bedroom on, they're going to turn the TV on, wait 5 seconds, select HDMI 1. And then we've already got our switching control. That actually translates to all of them. We did that once for DirecTV, but it's already part of Roku, Blu-ray, game system, because that is a room command, not a source-specific command. Now we just have to set it so that the TV goes off when they're done with the room. So when they turn the room off, we go video off. We're going to grab our command again. This is the endpoint driver for Just Add Power. I'm sending a serial command. We are in room receiver number 1, and I just need the power off command from our library. So we go to our library, power off, get the \x version, copy, and paste. So that's power on, power off for the room. We want to do one more thing. We want to give the user the ability to do volume control when they select the master bedroom. So they're going to pick the master bedroom. The panel is going to jump to whatever source they happen to pick. But we're looking at this volume section here at the bottom. So we're going to go to volume. Let's unlock our volume layer. And we've got a volume up, we've got a volume down, and we've got a mute button. So we're going to do volume up first. And you see we've already got the volume up tag. We're going to select the master bedroom room. We're going to do the same thing we've done before. We're just going to do volume stuff. So we're going to go to the just add power command to send serial. We are in the master bedroom, so receiver 1. And we need to go back to our library. We want the volume up hex with the \x. Paste, that's our volume up. And then we'll do the volume down tag. Again, master bedroom, command over, boop, send serial, receiver 1, library, volume down. Boop. And paste. And then sneakily off camera, we've done the same thing for the mute button. So you do that. That's our mute toggle command for the TV. And we've got serial control over IP through RTI ID11. Let's move on to infrared next. So for IR control of endpoints, really the only change we need to make is we need to go to our endpoint control mode, and we need to set it to the type of IR that we have. So we have IRv2. That is the 3G version of IR. There's an extra dongle you have to get. And then max color, if you have max color devices, you're doing max color IR. You just select the one that goes with it. We have IRv2, so we're going to pick that. If you happen to be doing serial and IR in the same project, what you need to do instead is we're going to leave this as serial. This is our serial driver. And then we're going to need to add another driver to do IR, because this driver is going to do serial for any device that it references. So if we're doing serial and IR at the same time, we actually need a second driver. So we'd go to devices, we'd go add. This is our user driver. This is our endpoint control driver. We're going to hit next. We're going to call this the just add power IR control driver. And it's going to look exactly the same. It's going to say number 2. So we're just going to copy all the information from driver 1 into driver 2. And poof, through the magic of editing, it's all done. You'll notice we still have the master bedroom referenced, even though we know the master bedroom is serial control. It still has to be in the driver. We're just not going to reference receiver 1 at any point because that's part of the serial driver. But we're going to move on to the living room, which is where our IR driver is. So we've got the living room IR TV driver loaded just so we know which driver we're dealing with, but this driver is not actually necessary. So we're going to pick our living room. We're going to go up to activities. And whenever we select one of these activities, we're using IR for endpoint control to turn the TV on when we want to watch the room, to select the HDMI input that the Just Add Power receiver is attached to. And then when we're done, we want to turn the TV off when we turn the room off. And then we also want to do some volume control when we're in the room. So let's look at how we do all of those. If we were doing IR control normally, we would go to our video on, we'd go to our command, and we'd be selecting the IR driver itself. Now this would be if the IR ports on the RTI processor were connected to an emitter that was attached directly to the TV. You would go here, you'd select your function, and you'd be done. And that's a perfectly good way to do it. But this is for what if we're doing IR control through Just Add Power. So the command doesn't use the IR ports on the RTI processor. The command gets sent over IP to the Just Add Power device, and then you use the IR port on the Just Add Power device. So we have to change this around a little bit. We still need a command. It's just that command is not being sent to the port on the processor. It's being sent to Just Add Power. So we're going to use our endpoint CEC. Oh, this is really annoying. How do I know if it's 1 or if it's 2? Let's change this. IR. There we go. Now we got it. All right, IR, there we go. And now we want to send an IR command. So we're going to set this to receiver 2, which is our living room according to our report file. And then I need the power on command for this IR TV. The way I get that, in ID9 you used to be able to just, there's a little library of IR, you could drag it out and copy it over. But in ID11, there's a little extra step you got to do. So you go up to library, you go to IR library manager. So we're going to pull open our library manager. And yours won't look like this by default. Yours is going to look like this master, but it's going to say, oh, read only. Oh, no, I can't do that. So we're going to open up the user, and it'll load. And then yours won't be full like this. You have to do one more step. You got to go to this thing, import. And then we're going to import the master library into it. Tell it, yeah, we want all this stuff. And then it'll load it all up, and you'll have your library of stuff. So we're going to go down to our Sony TV that we're doing IR control for, all the way down, Sony. And we are doing a TV. And we are doing most or all models. Let's do that one. Sounds good to me. All right, we're going to go down here to the hex view, and this is the format that the Just Add Power driver needs. So we're doing power on. We're going to scroll down to our power because this is when we mess with the room. Power on. There we go, is our code. We're going to copy that code, and we're going to paste it right in that blank right there. And then we're going to do a little time delay because the TV is going to turn on. And then once we turn on, we're going to copy, paste. We want to make sure the second thing that happens is we select the input that Just Add Power is a part of. So still receiver 2, still an IR command. We want to input HDMI 1. So we'll grab that, copy, and paste. So that's when they turn the room on, turns the TV on, selects their HDMI. Now we go back to when they turn the room off. We're going to do video off. So again, we need the same command. We need our IR driver. We need send IR command. We're still in the living room, but we need the code for power off. Back to our library, scroll, power off, copy, and paste. Last step, because we are in a room, we do want to be able to do volume control in this room. We're doing volume control through the TV. So we're going to go to our panel. We're going to go to our little volume buttons here. We've got a volume up, and we've already did the master bedroom for serial. Let's do the living room for IR. Again, we paste that command. We've got our IR driver, send IR command to the living room. And then we need our volume. This is the volume up. Copy. Paste. And hey, what do you know, like magic, the other ones have already been done. So we've got our volume down for our living room, and we've got our mute toggle for our living room done exactly the same way. Now let's move on to our third type of control, which is CEC, or Consumer Electronic Control. That's going to be control from the Just Add Power device over the HDMI cable to your source or display. We're going to use the same driver we already have loaded. So if you're doing serial and CEC in the same project, you only need one driver because that driver can do serial and CEC. If you're doing IR and CEC, you only need one driver. The only distinction is, serial and IR can't be on the same driver, but CEC can be used alongside one of the other types of control. So we've set up our patio to be a CEC TV in this system. If you look over here in the patio room section, there's no television driver loaded. And that's because CEC is not manufacturer specific. The power on for one model of TV is the same command for every model of TV. So we don't have to go hunting through a code library in order to get the command for power on. It's built into the Just Add Power device. So we're going to go down here to our events. We're going to go to our video on. We're going to add our command. We're going to select our Just Add Power endpoint driver. And then we're going to do a standard CEC command. There is an advanced section. We'll get to that in a second. And we are going to the patio, which is receiver 3 in our system. And we are going to turn the TV on, just like we did in all the other rooms. We're going to add a little time delay here that goes after. We're going to copy our command, paste that down here, and then we're going to select HDMI 1, the HDMI input that Just Add Power is attached to. Then when we turn the room off, our video off, it's going to do the same thing. Paste our command, again, that's the serial driver. Send CEC command standard, which receiver, and display off. Now the thing about CEC is that it is supported by most manufacturers, but the full range of commands isn't really supported. So we can do power on, we can do power off, we can do select HDMI 1, but you notice that our commands kind of stop there. And that's because for every other type of command, support is more mixed. So if we look at our panel and we look at our volume control, like what we did for RS-232 and IR, if we want to do our patio volume control, we can still paste our command. We've got our endpoint control, we've got our send CEC command, but there's not a standard command for volume. We're going to go to advanced. We're still on receiver 3, but volume is one of those that's kind of hit or miss on TVs. Like you have a hard time getting the TV to actually respond to volume, but we can still get a volume command. We use this handy dandy website called cecomatic.com. It's got lots of good commands that you can just tell it what you want. So we want the volume up command. We're going to send that to a TV. And we send that up here. We've got E04441. So let's grab that, bring that back over in our RTI. We're going to paste that, but we have to make one small change. Rather than the colons, we need a space between those. So that's our volume up function for CEC. And let's repeat that for our volume down. We'll go patio, paste that, still a CEC command advanced. We'll go back to our website, set our drop down to volume down, send that. It just looks like all we did was change from 41 to 42. We'll grab that whole thing. Get rid of the colon for a space. And then we'll repeat that last time for the mute, patio, paste our command, get rid of the one that's there. We want the mute function now. And again, 43, it just goes up one more. So we're going to go paste 43, just like that. And the last thing to do is push that update to the processor, open up our panel, and see it in action. So we've already pushed that up. Let's just pull up our panel, and let's look at what we got. So we're starting off, we've got our master bedroom as our serial control room. So we're going to hit master bedroom. And let's select the DirecTV. So the TV in front of me is off. I'm going to pick the DirecTV. It's going to turn the TV on, wait a few seconds, switch to DirecTV, HDMI 1. Perfect. I move on to our IR control. That's our living room. So we pick our living room and TV's off. Let's hit Roku. TV turns on, wait a few seconds, HDMI selection, switch to our Roku. Now, if the room's already on, it's not going to do the power on and all that. It's just going to switch directly to the Roku. Let's go lastly to our patio. And let's do the Blu-ray player on the patio. There's our TV on. And we've got our switch. Nice. HDMI selection. So that's setting up endpoint control with Just Add Power and RTI Integration Designer 11 to do either RS-232 control, IR control, or CEC of your endpoints. We loaded the driver in, we configured the IP address, set our serial or IR mode, named all our devices, and put those commands into our video on, video off, and our volume sections of our panel so we can control all the things we need to control. If you have any questions about any of this or need any further assistance, please contact us at support, and thanks for watching.